Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Sip Creative channel. Hope everyone is doing well out there. Today I'm going to be doing another episode of the style study, so let's just get straight into that. This piece here was sent in last week by Stereo. So Stereo is a graffiti artist from Germany and he's been writing graffiti for around 2 years now, and yeah, he's a really sick artist. I had a little look through his Instagram before filming this video and I'll pop up loads of his stuff on screen now. Really sick artist, not just graffiti, he does other bits and bobs in there. And yeah, really nice work. But anyway, this is the piece that he sent in for me to have a look over, and straight away I'd like to say it's a really nice piece. It was quite difficult to sort of find things that I personally would say need improving on, but there are things there. But overall I'd say it's a really nice piece, and it's the kind of piece that I'd love to see on a wall. So let's get straight into the letter structure. For those of you that can't read that out, there it is, it's Stereo. So we've got this nice big swooping S here with this long tail. We'll get into that later because there's parts of that I do like and parts of it where I feel like could be chopped and changed a little bit. We've got this slanty T here with a nice cross beam. That I feel works really well as it sort of comes off this top of this S here, matches up with that T. It kind of comes along and down. I like that in pieces. I like the fact that it's got that kind of letters are joining but not physically joining, so they're joining within the shape of the piece as a whole, not just the letters joining. And then we've got the E, so we've got two E's in this piece, and he's done a very nice job of keeping consistency with the two E's. You know, if I remove the letter structure here, you can see they're literally the exact same letter, which is nice. Some artists do that, some like to, if they have a repeat letter, they like to swap it up, and that can sometimes help with flow. For example, even with an E, they could go with one which is an uppercase, and then the second one they would go with the lowercase e. Anyway, yep, moving along, so we've got a nice R here. The R I will get into, it does need some structural changes, just the way that the second leg kind of comes out of the bar, it's sort of in a wrong way, and I feel like it throws things off a little bit. You know, we've got a lot of straight lines in this piece, bar the R and the O, and then the rest of it's kind of straight lines, and I feel like that R does sort of throw things off. But other than that, got the E again, and then the O, which I like. It's on a nice slanty angle and it's really funky. But yeah, there's the letter structure. First thing I would like to say that I think he's done really nicely is something I like to call letter height. It's pretty standard with any typography or graffiti, is keeping everything on the same height. It doesn't really matter so much in extensions, but when you have letters that have beams that kind of throw off above that line or below that line, if it's not done right, it just does not look nice, and it makes it harder to read and less legible and kind of breaks the structure. I mean, when you're writing handwriting, you have aboves and belows, but in this case we can see, you know, it's all uppercase, and we want everything to be in that kind of within those ruler lines, which I think he's done really nicely. So I'll just remove those 1 second. So I think he's done that really nicely, but the kind of point that I'd like to focus in on within this piece that I think everyone can sort of apply is not letter height, it's letter width. So if we look at the width of this S here, this is where I feel like the flow kind of issue arises with this piece, is with the width. So the width of this S here, it's a nice S, and I know that he likes doing these kind of S's, and if he kept that same width throughout the whole piece, it would have came out really nice. But if we use that same size box and place it here, we can see that we've got three letters here. You know, we've got the first E, we've got an R, and we've got the second E, all are the same width as that first S. And that really kind of throws the eye off because it looks really clumped in the middle. It sort of looks like everything's squashed in. And I feel like that's why he's sort of overlapped those E and that R, whereas you haven't really got that kind of overlapping anywhere else in the piece. So if we look here where we've got this E, I think this was sort of an attempt to kind of fit the E and the R into that small area. Whereas with this S here, we've got a big, bold, kind of strong letter just stood by itself, with nothing sort of overlapping it or it kind of engrossing in anything else's space. Whereas with this area, we've got a lot of busy area here with three letters, and these two purple squares are the same size, so it kind of shows where that kind of could come across as being a bit cramped. Okay, so I would like to talk about symmetry. I know I sort of always do, but symmetry is really important. If you understand symmetry, you can use it in any art form, not just graffiti, and using it is really good. I feel like straight away Stereo's got a really nice name to be able to use Symmetry. 6 letters works well because you can balance it 3 on each side. Yeah, so if I draw a line of Symmetry down the middle here, all he's really got to do to have symmetry in the piece is sort of balance the weight and sizing of these two sides, which I feel like he's done very well. Point that I definitely would bring up is these points here. Although they do sort of break the letter structure in the fact that on this one on the left hand side, we have got this beam here is part of the S, so that contributes to the structure of the S. That's the bottom beam. It's really important. If we took that away, that S would no longer look like an S. Whereas on the other side, he's added one in to add symmetry to the piece, which at a first glance looks really good. You know, we've got that symmetry across because we've got those both thin sweeping bars, which look nice. But that bar on the right hand side does nothing to the structure. It's not part of the O at all. You could kind of say it's a sort of an extension to the E, but then you've got a massive E and your other E isn't as big. So I feel like it is good, it creates symmetry, but then when you're breaking it down, you're like, oh, that's not actually part of a letter and it's not a part of an extension. What is it there for? But the symmetry that he has created is nice. I like the balance and he's got the weight perfectly. Okay, so that STE is the same weight as the REO by themselves. So if you split them into 2 separate pieces, you know, they balance perfectly. They're the same weight. Okay, so a few of the things I really do like in this piece are the bevels. Okay, so what a bevel is where you've gone around with a darker color and created that kind of edging on it. It creates the sort of ridge and it looks like that area is lower or deeper down than the center of the piece, which really helps create a lot of depth. He's gone with a really simple kind of fill. So we've just gone with straight the pink and then he's used the darker pink to create the bevel. And I really like that. I really enjoy it when people sort of keep things really stripped back and really focus on the letter structure itself. So those bevels are really nice. A lot of artists use those, or they'll use them on one side to have that kind of bevel on one side and they'll use the highlight on the other side. He's not used a highlight in this one, which I actually kind of like. The only thing that I feel like is drawn away by not using highlight and, you know, skimping on the 3D, which we'll get into, is the fact that your piece can look quite flat. It looks like sort of a very 2D piece on top of a 2D background. But in this style, I think it works well. I see a lot of styles like this come out of Germany. I don't know what it is, but they seem to like that kind of flat letter layering kind of thing, which I like as well. But yeah, I see it really abundant in artists from Germany that I've spoken to anyway. So yeah, I really like the bevels, and then he's also gone in with the shadow. So as you can see, it's like a shadow as if got a light source which is right in the middle. Imagine us as the light source looking down onto the piece. So imagine the light source is coming from here, which means we're going to cast a shadow not to left, to the right, we're going to cast it down. So we've got a shadow surrounding the entire letter edge, if you can see there. It's really subtle, but I feel like it adds a lot. It's really nice, so I really enjoy that. Okay, so part of the piece that I feel like is not needed at all and doesn't really add anything are these boxes here. I can see why he's done it, and he's done it to sort of add a little bit more interest. But the fact that we've only got them on 3 is kind of throws the eye off, in my opinion. It doesn't really help with symmetry, as we've got quite a lot more here, and we've got it on the S and the T, whereas on the side we've just got it on the E. I feel like we could have had these as part of the fill-in, but then just don't outline them because they kind of draw the eye and they're quite bold. Maybe if we developed them a bit more and added them into a few of the other letters, they could have looked quite a bit more appealing and, you know, actually kind of play a purpose in the piece. Okay, one of the other things I'd like to talk about is the letter structure. So I do really like the letter structure, especially the T and the O. I feel like they're kept simple and blocky and they work really well. Okay, so the 2 letters that I'd like to focus on that I feel like are a little bit off are the E and the R. Mainly the R. So if we look at the R here, okay, so if we look at the R here, you can see I've made a complete copy of his R and the structure's just off. And the reason for that is this area here. So this leg here, we need to attach to this other bar. It cannot come back in and connect to this bar because it just throws it off and it makes it look wrong. Sort of makes it look, a lot of people do this with Ks as well. And that's the kind of structure I feel like would work better in this piece. We've gone with a nice straight edges, which is what's consistent with the rest of the piece. So we've got this nice straight T and we can go that into the straight R. I feel like that would work well. And then I also remodeled the E a bit. So as you can see, here's his E. And I feel like it's very clumped up here and it doesn't really come back in. At a glance, because this middle section here, middle bar here is very small, it can sort of look like a little bit of like a C. and we sort of don't want that confusion between the two letters. So I've remodeled this one and made it a little bit more obvious what the letter is and still kept in keeping with kind of his style. But other than that, really nice piece. I really appreciate the style that he's gone with here, with, you know, the simplistic and really focusing in on the letter structure. It's really dope. But yeah guys, if you would like your piece reviewed in the style study episode, all you've got to do is drop me an email to sirpcreative@gmail.com and attach the photo you'd like me to look at. If you could just put in the email your name, where you're from, and how long you've been writing graffiti, it just helps me create a little bit of an intro about your work. But anyway guys, thank you for tuning in on today's video, and I'll catch you in the next one.